The first star died on a Tuesday. Dr. Zara Mitchell was analyzing stellar radiation patterns at the Calais Observatory when her instruments began showing impossible readings. The bright yellow star that had warmed 3 inhabited worlds for billions of years was simply fading. "This can't be right," she whispered, her green eyes fixed on the data streaming across her screens. Zara was a brilliant astrophysicist from the peaceful Xerion species, known throughout the galaxy for their scientific achievements. Her silver skin shimmered with worry as she recalibrated her equipment. The star wasn't exploding or collapsing into a black hole. It was being drained of its energy, like someone was slowly turning down a cosmic dimmer switch. Within 6 hours, the Calais sun had become a cold, dark sphere floating in space. On the 3 worlds that orbited the dead star, panic erupted. 20 billion beings watched their sky turn black as eternal winter began. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels as evacuation ships desperately tried to rescue entire populations before their worlds froze solid. Ambassador Thrix of the Galactic Council received Zara's report with disbelief. The old reptilian diplomat had seen many crises in his long career, but never anything like this. "How is such a thing possible?" he demanded during the emergency session. "We don't know," Zara replied through the holographic communicator. The star's nuclear fusion simply stopped. All its energy was somehow absorbed by an unknown force. Before anyone could respond, another alert flashed across the council chamber, then another, and another. Within 48 hours, 17 more stars had died across the galaxy. The pattern was always the same: sudden energy drain, complete darkness, and billions of refugees fleeing dying worlds. Fear spread faster than the approaching darkness itself. Captain Jake Morrison was hauling medical supplies to the Xerion homeworld when he witnessed the horror firsthand. His cargo ship, the Iron Will, was approaching the Centauri system when the twin suns began to flicker. "No, no, no," Jake muttered, his weathered hands gripping the controls. He was a tough human trader who had spent 30 years moving goods between alien worlds. Most species didn't even know humans still existed, believing them extinct after the Great War centuries ago. Jake watched helplessly as both Centauri suns died within minutes of each other. The beautiful garden worlds below began to freeze as darkness consumed everything. Massive alien ships fled the system in panic, carrying whoever they could save. "Emergency broadcast to all vessels," came a desperate transmission from the planet's surface. "This is Governor Malthan of Centauri Prime. Our star is dead. We need immediate evacuation assistance. Repeat, our star is dead." Jake wanted to help, but his small freighter could barely carry a few hundred passengers. He watched the massive evacuation fleet struggle to save 20 billion beings from 2 dying worlds. That night, Jake activated a special communication device hidden in his ship's cargo hold. It connected him to a network that officially didn't exist: the Human Deep Space Command. "Command, this is Nomad 7, he reported. "The Star Killer has hit Centauri. Both suns are dark. It's spreading faster than our worst projections." The response came from Admiral Nathan Pierce himself, a legend among the hidden human communities. "Nomad 7, return to Sanctuary immediately. Operation Starforge is now active. We can't hide anymore." Jake's heart raced. Operation Starforge was humanity's most guarded secret, a project that had consumed vast resources for over 2 centuries. If Admiral Pierce was activating it, the galaxy was facing its darkest hour. As Jake set course for humanity's secret fortress world, he looked back at the dead Centauri system. Somewhere in that darkness, ancient things were stirring. Things that fed on starlight and thrived in the cold void between worlds. The galaxy had forgotten that humans were warriors, survivors who had faced extinction and emerged stronger. While other species had pursued peace and prosperity, humanity had prepared for the return of an ancient enemy. The Void Devourers were awakening, just as the old human legends had predicted. Now it was time for humanity to emerge from the shadows and fight for the light itself. The stars were going dark, but human fire would burn brightest in the deepest night. Captain Jake Morrison's ship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Vega system, and what he saw made his blood freeze. The mighty blue giant star that had illuminated 7 worlds for eons was flickering like a dying candle. "Dear God," Jake whispered, watching the massive star's light fade in real time. He had seen this nightmare 17 times now, but it never got easier. On his scanner, Jake could see the evacuation fleet struggling desperately to save the Vegan colonies. Thousands of ships swarmed around the dying worlds like insects fleeing a forest fire. The largest vessels belonged to the Thorak Empire, their golden hulls gleaming even in the failing starlight. Commander Voss of the Thorak evacuation fleet broadcast on all frequencies. "This is impossible. Our scientists said Vega had billions of years left. How can a star just stop burning?" Jake knew the answer, but he couldn't reveal it. Not yet. The ancient enemy that humanity had been preparing to fight for centuries was finally making its move. The Void Devourers were awakening from their cosmic slumber, and they were hungry. Within hours, the Vega star died completely. Jake watched 7 civilized worlds plunge into eternal darkness as temperatures dropped to absolute zero. Billions of beings who had called those worlds home for millennia were now refugees fleeing through space. The evacuation wasn't going well. There simply weren't enough ships to carry everyone to safety. Jake saw smaller vessels overloaded with passengers, their life support systems failing under the strain, children separated from their families in the chaos, entire species facing extinction. "Emergency transmission from Sanctuary Command," crackled Jake's secret communicator. "All Nomad agents report to the hidden fleet immediately. The Admiral is preparing to reveal our presence." Jake set course for the coordinates he had memorized years ago. Sanctuary was humanity's greatest secret, a massive fortress world hidden in an uncharted nebula, where human civilization had been rebuilding itself for 300 years. As Jake's ship entered the nebula, he gasped at what lay before him. Hundreds of human warships filled the space around Sanctuary, each one more advanced than anything the known galaxy possessed. At the center of the fleet was a vessel so large it defied imagination. The Starforge stretched for 50 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull covered in energy collectors and stellar manipulation equipment. This was humanity's ultimate weapon, designed not for destruction but for creation, the power to reignite dead stars. Admiral Nathan Pierce stood on the Starforge's command bridge, a tall man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much war. He was studying tactical displays showing the spread of darkness across the galaxy when Jake arrived for his briefing. "Nomad 7 reporting as ordered, sir," Jake said, saluting the legendary admiral. "At ease, Captain Morrison," Pierce replied. "You've done excellent work gathering intelligence on the Devourer attacks. Your reports helped us confirm what we feared most." The admiral activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red zones marked where stars had died, and the pattern was unmistakable. The darkness was spreading outward from the galactic core in an expanding spiral. "They're following the same pattern as the last time," Pierce explained. 3 million years ago. The Void Devourers nearly consumed all light in this galaxy. Only the intervention of an ancient race stopped them, but at a terrible cost. Commander Lisa Park, the Starforge's chief tactical officer, joined the briefing. She was a brilliant strategist with short black hair and fierce determination. "Sir, our deep space sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving between the dead systems. The Devourers aren't just draining stars, they're building something." Pierce nodded grimly. "A gateway. They're trying to open a permanent portal to bring their entire swarm into our dimension. If they succeed, every star in the galaxy will die within a year." Jake felt the weight of the revelation. "How many people know the truth, Admiral?" "Outside of humanity?" "None. The other species are too panicked to see the bigger picture. The Galactic Council is in chaos. Half their member worlds are already dead or dying." Through the bridge's massive viewport, Jake could see other human ships preparing for departure. Each vessel was equipped with experimental technology that could manipulate stellar physics, the culmination of centuries of secret research. "Admiral," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving distress calls from the Altair system. 3 stars are starting to flicker simultaneously." Pierce straightened his uniform. "This is it, people. Operation Starforge begins now. We can't hide anymore." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "For 300 years, humanity has prepared for this moment. While other species pursued peace, we never forgot that the universe is not safe. Today, we emerge from the shadows to fight for the light itself." The Starforge's engines came online with a deep thrumming that Jake could feel in his bones. Around them, the hidden human fleet began to move as one, their ship's advanced stealth systems gradually deactivating. "All ships, this is Admiral Pierce," came the fleet-wide broadcast. "We go now to save a galaxy that believes we're extinct. Show them what humanity can do when the darkness comes calling." As the human fleet emerged from the nebula, Jake realized that the galaxy was about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or technology. It was their refusal to surrender, even when all the stars went dark. The Altair system was dying when the human fleet arrived. 3 massive stars flickered like candles in a hurricane, while billions of alien refugees fled in overcrowded ships. The Galactic Council's emergency response fleet was completely overwhelmed, their commanders arguing over evacuation priorities as entire worlds froze beneath darkening skies. Admiral Nathan Pierce stood on the Starforge's bridge watching the chaos through the main viewport. "Communications, open a channel to all vessels in the system." "Sir," the communications officer hesitated, "that will reveal our presence to every species in the galaxy." "That's the point, Lieutenant," Pierce replied calmly. 300 years of hiding ends today." The transmission went out on all frequencies. Suddenly, every ship in the Altair system detected the massive human fleet materializing as their stealth systems deactivated. The Starforge alone was larger than most space stations, its hull bristling with technology no other species had ever seen. "Attention all vessels," Admiral Pierce's voice echoed across space. "This is Admiral Nathan Pierce of the Human Deep Space Command. We are here to help." The response was immediate chaos. On the Galactic Council flagship, Ambassador Thrix nearly fell from his command chair. "Humans, but you're extinct. The plague wiped you out centuries ago." Captain Delos of the Andromedan Rescue Fleet stared at his sensors in disbelief. "Those ships, their energy readings are impossible. What kind of technology do they possess?" Commander Lisa Park stepped forward on the Starforge's bridge. "Admiral, we're receiving over 3,000 communication requests from alien vessels. They all want to know who we are and how we're still alive." Pierce nodded. "Patch me through to the senior Galactic Council representative." Ambassador Thrix's reptilian face appeared on the main screen, his golden eyes wide with shock. "Admiral Pierce, if that is truly your rank, the Council demands an explanation. Humanity was declared extinct after the Terran Plague of 2387. "The plague was real, Ambassador," Pierce replied. "But not all of humanity died. We chose to let the galaxy believe we were gone while we prepared for this day." "What day?" Thrix demanded. Pierce gestured to his tactical officer. The display showed the spreading pattern of dead stars across the galaxy. "The return of the Void Devourers, an ancient enemy that feeds on stellar energy. They consumed stars in this galaxy once before 3 million years ago." Dr. Zara Mitchell, monitoring the conversation from her research station, interrupted. "Admiral, our historical records mention no such species. How do you know about these devourers?" "Because humanity survived their last attack," Pierce answered solemnly. "We were one of the few species that escaped to other galaxies when the devourers came. When we returned and found this galaxy healing, we vowed to be ready if they ever returned." The truth hit the assembled alien commanders like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had been preparing for this exact threat for millennia. "The technology you see before you," Pierce continued, "was designed for one purpose: to fight creatures that eat starlight itself. While your civilizations built peaceful societies, we built weapons that can reignite dead suns." As if to demonstrate, the Starforge moved toward the dying Altair prime star. Energy collectors along the massive ship's hull began to glow with contained stellar fire. The ship's main weapon wasn't a destroyer, it was a creator. Commander Park coordinated the complex operation. Stellar manipulation arrays online. Fusion. Igniters charging. All stations report ready for star reignition procedure. Fire, Pierce ordered quietly. A beam of pure creative energy lanced out from the star forge, striking the dying star's core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, nuclear fusion began again. The star's light grew stronger, pushing back the darkness that had claimed the system. Across the alien fleet, sensors registered what should have been impossible. The dead star was coming back to life. By the void, whispered Captain Delos. They're actually doing it, they're bringing the star back. Within an hour, Altair Prime blazed with renewed fire. The three frozen worlds began to warm as their sun returned to full strength. The evacuation ships stopped their desperate flight and began returning to orbit around their homeworlds. Ambassador Thrix stared at the tactical display in awe. Admiral Pierce, your people have just accomplished something that violates every law of physics we understand. How is this possible? Because we've had 3 million years to prepare, Pierce replied. And because humanity learned long ago that the universe is not a safe place. While you pursued peace, we never forgot that survival requires strength. The communication channels filled with alien voices expressing amazement, gratitude, and fear. Some species offered immediate alliance with humanity. Others demanded to know why humans had hidden such incredible power. Pierce addressed them all with calm authority. We remained hidden because the galaxy needed to grow strong on its own. But the Void Devourers have returned and they're building something at the galactic core. A gateway to bring their entire swarm into our dimension. Dr. Zara Mitchell's voice trembled as she asked, "How do we stop them?" "Together," Pierce answered. "The human fleet will lead the way, but we'll need every species working as one. The Devourers feed on division and fear. Only unity can defeat them." As the human fleet prepared to move deeper into Devourer territory, alien ships began joining their formation. The Thorak brought their heavy cruisers. The Andromedans contributed their fast scouts. Even the peaceful Zarians offered their scientific vessels. For the first time in galactic history, every major species was uniting under a single banner, and at their head flew humanity's greatest creation, a ship designed not for war, but for bringing light back to a darkening universe. The galaxy had found its guardians at last. The combined fleet moved deeper into the galaxy's dead zone, where 17 star systems lay in eternal darkness. Commander Lisa Park studied the tactical displays on the Starforge's bridge, her expression growing more concerned with each passing hour. "Admiral," she reported to Pierce, "our sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving between the dead systems. Whatever the Void Devourers are building, it's getting stronger." Through the bridge viewport, they could see the nightmare that awaited them. Shadow creatures the size of moons drifted through space, feeding on the last traces of stellar radiation from the dead suns. Their bodies seemed to absorb light itself, creating zones of absolute darkness wherever they moved. Dr. James Foster, humanity's lead xenobiologist, joined the command conference. He was a thin man with bright eyes who had spent decades studying ancient alien records. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Devourer movement patterns. They're not random. They're following ley lines of gravitational force, building some kind of cosmic web." Captain Delos of the Andromedan Scout Fleet transmitted from his flagship. "Human Command, my advanced ships are reporting something massive at the galactic core. It's hard to describe. Like a wound in space itself." Pierce activated the long-range scanners. The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge step back in horror. At the galaxy's center, where the supermassive black hole should have been, something far worse had taken its place. A writhing mass of darkness was consuming reality itself, growing larger with each star it devoured. "The gateway," Pierce said quietly. "They're almost finished building it." Ambassador Thrix's voice crackled over the communication system from his council ship. "Admiral Pierce, What exactly will happen if they complete this gateway? Dr. Foster answered grimly. According to the ancient records, it will allow the entire Void Devourer swarm to enter our dimension. Billions of these creatures, each capable of draining a star in minutes. Every light in the galaxy will die within a standard year. The alien fleet commanders fell silent as the terrible reality sank in. Captain Vex of the Kelvani crystal ships spoke first. Then we stop them here, whatever the cost. Pierce nodded approvingly. That's exactly what we're going to do. Dr. Foster, how long do we have? Based on the energy buildup, perhaps 18 hours before the gateway becomes stable, enough for mass transit. Commander Park stepped forward. Sir, I've identified our primary targets. There are 7 massive Devourer constructs anchoring the gateway. If we can destroy them, the entire structure should collapse. What about the shadow creatures protecting them? Asked Captain Delos. Pierce smiled grimly. That's where humanity's real secret comes in. Lisa, activate the Prometheus protocols. Throughout the human fleet, ships began transforming. Hull plating retracted to reveal weapon systems that glowed with contained stellar fire. The humans hadn't just learned to reignite stars, they had learned to weaponize stellar energy itself. All human vessels, this is Admiral Pierce. You know what we trained for. Today we fight not just for humanity, but for every light in the galaxy. Prometheus protocols are active. Engage at will. The first wave of shadow creatures rushed toward the Allied fleet like a living tsunami of darkness. Each creature was the size of a battleship, its body crackling with absorbed stellar energy. They moved without making a sound, consuming light and heat as they approached. The human ships opened fire first. Beams of artificial sunlight lanced through space, striking the shadow creatures and causing them to writhe in apparent agony. Where the stellar fire touched them, the Devourers began to dissolve back into the void. Impossible, breathed Ambassador Thrix. They're actually hurting those things. Commander Park coordinated the human battle line. All ships, focus fire on the larger constructs. Don't let them form up for a mass attack. The alien ships added their firepower, but their conventional weapons seemed to have little effect on the shadow creatures. Only humanity's starfire weapons could truly damage the Void Devourers. Captain Jake Morrison piloted his converted freighter through the battle, using its smaller Starforge emitter to carve through groups of smaller shadow creatures. This is Nomad 7 to all ships. The Devourers are vulnerable to concentrated stellar radiation. Target their core sections. The battle raged for hours as the combined fleet fought its way toward the galactic core. Humanity led the charge, their ships blazing like mobile stars as they pushed back the endless darkness. Behind them, the alien vessels provided support and rescued crew members from damaged human ships. Dr. Foster monitored the gateway's construction from his science station. Admiral, the Devourers are accelerating their work. They know we're coming. Gateway completion in 6 hours and falling. Pierce studied the tactical display. They had destroyed hundreds of shadow creatures, but thousands more swarmed between them and their target. 7 massive constructs continued building the gateway, each one protected by layers of smaller Devourers. Lisa, Pierce said quietly, prepare the Starforge for a direct assault on the central construct. We're going to ram through their defensive line. Commander Park's eyes widened. Sir, that will put us within range of every Devourer in the system. The ship might not survive. Pierce looked around the bridge at his crew, then at the alien ships fighting alongside them. The galaxy is depending on us, Commander. Sometimes the only way to save the light is to become the light. As the Starforge began its final approach toward the gateway, every human on the bridge understood that they were flying into legend. Win or lose, the galaxy would remember this day as the moment humanity emerged from the shadows to fight for the stars themselves. The darkness ahead seemed infinite, but humanity's fire burned brighter than ever before. The Starforge plunged through the heart of darkness like a burning arrow aimed at the galaxy's core. Admiral Nathan Pierce gripped his command chair as shadow creatures the size of cities crashed against his ship's hull, their touch draining energy from the protective shields. Hull integrity at 60% and falling, reported Commander Lisa Park, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "The Devourers are trying to drain our stellar cores directly." Through the bridge viewport, Pierce could see their target, a massive construct of living darkness that pulsed with stolen starlight. This was the gateway's central anchor, the key to the Void Devourers' invasion of their dimension. Around it, 6 smaller constructs fed power into the growing portal that would doom the galaxy. "Distance to target?" Pierce asked. 8,000 kilometers in closing," replied the navigation officer. "But Admiral, the defensive field around the construct is unlike anything we've seen. It's absorbing our starfire weapons." Dr. James Foster looked up from his science station, his face pale with realization. "Admiral, I've figured out what they're building. It's not just a gateway. It's a conversion engine. They're planning to transform our entire dimension into their feeding ground. Every star, every planet, everything will become food for their kind." The communication system crackled with transmissions from the Allied fleet fighting behind them. Captain Delos reported heavy casualties among the Andromedan scouts. Ambassador Thrix's council ship had lost half its power trying to break through the shadow creature swarm. Even the mighty Thorak battle cruisers were being overwhelmed. "Admiral," called Captain Jake Morrison from his freighter, "my ship's Starforge is overheating, but I can give you one massive pulse. It might be enough to punch through their defenses." Pierce felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Every decision now would determine whether light or darkness ruled the galaxy. "Negative, Jake. We need you to lead the evacuation if we fail. This is humanity's burden." Commander Park studied the tactical display with fierce concentration. "Sir, I have an idea. What if we don't try to destroy the construct from outside? What if we deliver our payload directly to its core?" "You mean ram the Starforge into it?" Pierce asked. "Not the whole ship, the stellar forge chambers. If we can detonate them inside the construct, the explosion should destabilize the entire gateway network." Dr. Foster ran calculations on his console. It could work, but the energy release would be equivalent to a supernova. Nothing within 100,000 kilometers would survive. Pierce looked around his bridge at the crew that had served with him for decades. These men and women had dedicated their lives to protecting a galaxy that had forgotten humanity existed. Now they faced their ultimate test. "All hands, this is the Admiral," Pierce announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going to save every star in the galaxy, but it will cost us everything. Anyone who wants to evacuate to the escape pods has 60 seconds. Not a single person moved from their station." Commander Park smiled grimly. "Sir, request permission to take us in." "Permission granted. Take us into legend, Lisa." The Starforge accelerated toward the central construct, its hull blazing with stellar fire as it fought through waves of shadow creatures. Behind them, the Allied fleet formed a protective formation, their combined firepower holding back the Devourer swarm. As they approached the construct, Pierce could see its true horror. It wasn't just a machine. It was alive, a creature made of consumed starlight and devoured worlds. Billions of years of stolen life energy pulsed within its dark heart. 30 seconds to impact, Park reported. Stellar forge chambers armed for detonation. The construct seemed to sense their approach. Massive tentacles of darkness reached out to crush the Starforge, but the ship's weapons carved through them like a blade of pure sunlight. 10 seconds. Park counted down. "Admiral, it's been an honor." Pierce smiled at his crew one last time. "The honor was mine. For humanity. For the light." The Starforge struck the construct's core and detonated. The explosion that followed could be seen from the edge of the galaxy. 7 stellar forge chambers released their contained stellar energy simultaneously, creating a blast that tore through the fabric of space itself. The central construct disintegrated instantly, and the chain reaction spread to the 6 anchor points. The gateway collapsed with a sound like reality tearing. The portal that would have doomed the galaxy folded in on itself, dragging thousands of shadow creatures back into the void where they belonged. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his freighter as the explosion faded, leaving behind something miraculous. Where the gateway had been, a new star was being born from the released stellar energy. Its light began to spread outward, reigniting the dead suns that the devourers had consumed. One by one, across 17 star systems, dead stars blazed back to life. Frozen worlds began to warm as their suns returned. The darkness that had threatened to consume the galaxy was pushed back by waves of returning light. "By the void," whispered Ambassador Thrix from his damaged ship. "They did it. The humans actually did it." Dr. Zara Mitchell, monitoring the stellar revival from her observatory, could barely contain her excitement. The cascade effect is spreading. Every star the Devourers killed is coming back online. It's the greatest miracle in galactic history. As the light returned to the galaxy, something else became clear. The human fleet was still there, damaged but not destroyed. The Starforge was gone, but hundreds of other human vessels remained to guide the galaxy into its new age. From the heavy cruiser Defiant, the new fleet commander addressed the galaxy. "This is Admiral Sarah Cross of the Human Deep Space Command. The immediate threat has passed, but our work is just beginning. Humanity offers our hand in friendship to rebuild what was lost and prepare for whatever challenges the future may bring." The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest gift wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to surrender hope, even when all the stars went dark. As the newly reborn suns blazed across space, billions of beings looked up at their skies and understood that they were no longer alone. Humanity had emerged from the shadows, not as conquerors, but as guardians who would stand watch against the darkness. The stars had gone dark, but humanity's fire had brought them home.